right.
Welcome to Speak Sex. I am your host, Eurydice, and today we have Heather Montgomery as our guest, and I'm looking forward to our conversation because she's one of those Wonder Women in our in our industry. Heather is the founder and CEO of Pleazeme, Please with a Z, which has been called the Facebook of sexual wellness. So it's a big and quick and fast-growing platform, online platform. Heather is an advocate for female sexual wellness and sexual wellness for all genders, sexual empowerment. She spent 20 years in the medical field, kind of like, health, physical, emotional wellness field. So that was her background, and she saw the need for this type of conversation and information and learning, especially for women clients. And here we are. And I think it's the perfect moment because that's happening like everywhere around us.
Yes,
so I think,
thankfully.
Heather, you're bringing everyone together.
Yeah, thank you. It's such a pleasure to be here. I've been a fan of your podcast, and I'm excited to share with your listeners who must adore you and your mission a little bit about ours. Yeah,
I'll tell you. I wanted to add that we do have a channel. So Speak Sex has a channel on Pleazeme. Yeah.
Yes, that's how I heard your podcast.
Exactly. It's great.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, thank you for having us, and we are excited to be here. And yes, it is about time that we all spend a little time focusing on this area of our life and having resources and permission to feel good about it and integrate it. So yeah, we're excited about that.
Yeah, I have noticed, to my happy surprise, that even in the span of the last 2 years since MeToo, there has been such a big improvement in the awareness of young women, and so many more want to be in a sex-positive field. So I feel that there is definitely a shift from like the let's say the reactionary, the reactionary period in the first decade of the millennium, where I felt that I felt sad that so many young women equated empowerment with marketing and monetization of their young, beautiful, fertile bodies. And brand new bodies that they hadn't had time to kind of like figure out what to do with yet. And so and as much as it was great that like technology was slowly giving women a way to do that without like the intermediary
middleman,
like men, without the pimps or the male pornographers or and in the beginning actually it was the webmasters, like the nerd webmasters who were usually male making the money, but then with all the different apps and technological modalities, more and more women were able to take control of that. But also, there was like this big culture of like, sugar babies or dating that the kind of
millionaire match.
Millionaire match, exactly. All the reality TV thing of The Bachelor.
Seeking arrangements, was that the other one? Seeking arrangements,
Seeking arrangements, right. All of that, And just the idea of like, yes, we don't have to get married, but we're still gonna like, equate romance with money, or why should we give sex away when we could make money from it, and that's more empowering the money than the pleasure or the self knowledge. And it was for me personally, as as a feminist for a long time, it was sad to watch. I felt like, wow, this is such a backlash. We got retrenched right back in somehow. What happened? But anyway, it's come around. So now I see the youngest generation, and even some of the ones who had kind of gone, in this way that I was just describing, revisit all that, and they are interested in being sex coaches and sexologists and, practitioners of some sort of sexual awakening, educators. So, come at it from a way that is truly more empowering and transformational, right?
Right. If women are watching them and they're like, well, how do I become more free with my sexuality? You clearly embrace yours, right? In multiple ways. And I'm afraid to even talk about it. So they coach those, right? They coach women who are like, how do I become more okay with my body? How do I become more free? I think that's an amazing progression. It's so good to see that. I mean, I don't know about you, but I felt like through my process of liberation sexually, it really helped every other area of my life and me feel more empowered in my personal relationships, of course, but also in work, my friendships. I think that's the key. And when we don't integrate that part of ourselves and we keep it separate or hidden, then we never fully, tap into all of our energy. So I think that's awesome that women are helping other women, and not afraid. I'm not afraid to say, hey, this is a subject that should be taught, that can be taught, that can be understood and learned. Yeah.
And I think a lot of it has come from, movements like MeToo, because for a change, feminism spoke about sexuality, right? Instead of like pretending that we should all be like men, like we'll wear the pantsuit and just, that's it, So just bringing up issues of sexuality and the presence of like women's sexual energy, like their genital presence, in the world of commerce, in the world of men, and right. And
what MeToo did was bring attention to the violation part of it. Though.
The violation, but also at the same time, I feel, coincidentally, it made it okay to speak about all this stuff.
Right.
So it's not only
it kind of opened the gates.
It opened the floodgates. So
for sure.
It's being like less shameful to just have the conversation, to speak about sexual reality, truth.
Right. Well, you can't talk about sexual harassment without talking about sex.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I mean, what happened? Well, I was sexually aroused. Well, what kind of sex? Well, like, what do you mean? So, so it has, the conversation has to come up. I think we could take it a lot there's a lot of positive directions that we can take if we're going to be talking about women and sexuality and consent versus non-consent and pleasure versus exchanging sex as a commodity and or love. I mean, and or, basic manifestation and health and wellness, right? And so there's so many things that we can talk about. Yeah, so I think Me Too definitely opened people's eyes to the fact that people were using power to get sex and that was hurting women and their careers and or, compromising their desires and integrity, right? And so that's a huge part. But I think we could take it up a notch and start talking about our empowerment period, with or without the man portion, you know?
Yeah, I think
and then incorporating that in a healthy way.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I think that is one of the outcomes, I mean, and even if we start from the discussion of it as a violation, that's fine. The fact that we somehow now feel comfortable and not like disrespected or extremely humiliated or extremely devalued, saying, out loud, I feel violated. I I understand consent, I do not
Right.
give consent, or I feel
Right.
coerced. Just being
Right.
able to say these things, I feel, is revolutionary, because part of our sexual liberation, in the 60s and 70s involved, just saying yes, because before we
Right.
couldn't do anything. So just the fact that we could.
So we do everything all at once.
Yeah, it's like,
Yeah.
that was
Mhm.
like,
Yeah.
we came out of like the controlled, home
Right.
environment.
Yeah.
So that was enough. Like,
Right.
we couldn't ask for too much more.
Yeah. If you had the first time you had a piece of cake, you just so excited.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. They know the difference.
Right.
Do I want to do it? Who cares? At least I get to do it, even if I don't want to.
Right. Right.
So it's been like these stages, and I feel that definitely, this kind of like cultural understanding about the importance of woman giving consent also has made a big difference, because, that's in a different kind of empowerment.
Yes.
Because it involves the language, it involves a dialogue that, again, is not considered like, shameful,
Right.
or,
Right.
unspeakable, the way that, everything sexual had been considered for so long, right? Devalued and like, like the nether regions,
Right.
And so I feel that has given a lot of, women, but also like, feminist men and healthy males, an opening to look for, discuss, learn, and then share practices of, of inclusion, of awareness, of, less like, less of the hierarchy of like the men dominate and take, and the women give themselves.
Subservient.
Yeah, exactly, and sub.
I mean, unless you're a dom and a sub in the bedroom, and that's what you're looking for,
right.
Which we're not saying that's wrong. If that's something that you enjoy, the exchange of,
right. No,
power and control.
No, what I feel is
what you're saying is in a non-consensual, environment.
I'm not talking about what we're doing in bed. I'm just saying,
Yes.
The social structure has been that, the men are dominant and the women are subordinate. I'm not at all talking about, the bedroom. If anything, reenacting it in the bedroom is one of the ways that we understand it and reclaim it and find healing,
Right, exactly. And I think that's a great segue to the point that sex is very healing. It can be very healing. And, when you talk about the MeToo movement and women realizing our power and everything, I think you and I were discussing, there's probably 85 to maybe 90% of women who feel like they have been harassed in that way at some point. By the time they reach, we'll call it 40.
Oh, for sure.
Right?
For sure.
And so I think we also have an opportunity there now that we're talking about it and aware that there's a way to have that not be the case anymore, right? To change that. We still have that experience of, I can't embody my sexuality, or I'm going to get hit on by a man and it's going to ruin. How do we go back and embrace ourselves again and our beauty and our ability to be in our divine feminine without the fear of, oh, this is going to attract a problem into my life, so I better wear the pants and wear the long shirts and not walk with any kind of sexuality and not look too long in their eye. Like there's, of course, the line of when you're flirting. That's not what I'm talking, like you mean to intend that. But, a lot of women have dimmed their shine, because they're like, after it happening once or twice or three times, how do you gain back that power to say, no, I'm not going to not be who I am. I'm not going to embody my sexuality and happiness because I'm afraid that it's going to attract too many men. That's another thing I think that we get an opportunity to look at. I know I've struggled with that, especially when I worked in workplaces with lots of men. If it happens once, it happens twice. By the third time, you're just like, I think there was a job I had. I wore all men's long shirts and pants and belts and high heel shoes. But I mean, that was my outfit. And that was how I went to work. I just did not want to have that problem. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
And that changes you. That changes you. And it limits our ability to be women, and so I think we get to, heal that wound too and be able to embrace our own full sexuality,
Yeah. And that's, the question is how, what's the process to get there? Because I feel that the way to do that, is to unlearn a few of the stuff that we've been trained and taught, unconsciously, and instead kind of like become conscious, otherwise, just like you said, with kind of like shut it all out. And then in that way, we're not really acting as women. We're just basically trying to be as much like the men as we can, so we can get respect through their setup.
Right. I think it's even more than
setup. I mean,
I think it's even more than worrying about getting respect. I think it's worrying about being safe.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, yes, we want their respect, but I think we could get that either way. But I think we just don't want to get hit on.
Yeah, well, that's what I meant by respect. That when
I thought you meant the business part. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I meant that when you walk down the street, or when you're in the office, or when you're in a conversation about things that are not sexual, and that meanwhile your body can be so easily sexualized, then you just kind of like shut that. You hide it, like you said. Both by dressing it,
body language,
but also your body language, your tone of voice,
eye contact,
everything, all of it.
Everything.
Yeah. So, and in that way, you kind of like lose your own, sexual consciousness and power, and compartmentalize in a way that's not healthy, and that's the way that the patriarchy right now has deemed most functional, like fracture, compartmentalize, tiny.
That's how we survive.
Yeah.
That's how we adapt and survive, right?
Yeah.
I think that's it. We have to get out of the survival mindset, like the training and the previous and the experience, and take our safe self out of survival mode, But in order to do that, we have to feel safe. Right. And so the steps that we've been taking, I think, do help. Right now, if some guy looks at you wrong, you can just go, "Hash it, me too."
Yeah.
I mean, kind of almost, and just be like, "Buddy, back off." Before you get yourself in trouble. We can start there. And hopefully we get less and less of that as the world has become aware and said to their peers, "That's not acceptable." That's the other part. People have to tell people, call them out. A little bit right away. Don't let it go on another day. That's unacceptable. And that's the part where I think historically women have worried that would hurt their career. I think we're at a point now in most industries where you can say that, and you would at least have a leg to stand on to defend yourself if it did hurt your career. Right. Yeah.
If you're in a big company, or, that has more to lose, I guess, in a big business. I mean, But as you said, most of us continue to live in that, toxic environment. I mean, I still to this day, I'm aware of being alone, on the boardwalk after midnight, walking my dogs, because that's like my first free moment. I'm aware of it. I don't walk into the 7-Eleven without feeling vulnerable. I see my daughter, and she's 20. She is of that generation. And they don't, if they go out, they don't go to the bathroom alone. She goes to the bathroom with a girlfriend or two. They don't get in an Uber alone. They go, they stay in a pack, and so long as they are, and they make sure that if they drink, someone is watching for each other. So, it's boys or males or male identifying people, folk who present physically as male, but also, those who speak for them cannot quite understand that. If you don't live it, if you don't experience it, you just don't understand what it means to be 100% all the time while you're outside of your home in public, feeling at risk, feeling
vulnerable, like you mentioned.
Rapeable.
Yeah.
Basically,
Right.
that's what it is.
Right. Yeah.
And then, how many women do not have the safety in their home? If you
Right.
don't have a room of your own, then it could be that you have a husband, or a father, or a brother who drinks, who,
Right.
so you could experience almost all of your life from a place of vulnerability, and so getting us all to understand that that's not normal, that we were not born to do that or feel that way, right? And that we can change things around is I feel like consciousness changing, but it takes time because it's easier to say yes, that's what I believe. And it takes much more time to actually speak about it every time you feel it, and make yourself conscious and those around you conscious,
And to make different decisions based on those beliefs. So that's where the proof is in the pudding. You can say you believe something and you'll find out real quick whether you do or not based on how you react in a situation, right? Mm-hmm. And so I think that you're right. It's and it takes conscious decision making sometimes, right? You say, wait, if I believe this, then I wouldn't be scared walking in here. So I'm going to muster up my courage. I'm going to walk in without fear, And I think that is possible for everyone, but it is not going to happen just magically, right? So we get inspired by others. We get information from other people. We hear stories from our peers of things that they've went through. There's many coaches that are, whether they're with a medical degree or just experts on this particular subject, that can help healing from abusive relationships, healing from violations, healing from rapes, healing from sexual harassment. And I think that's key and that's critical. And when we have a place where we can go and feel safe to talk about that, because as victims, right? And at that time you would be a victim being raped, abused child, that's definitely being a victim. I don't mean living a victim, but when you are going through and victimized, you have residual cell membrane memory. Your body remembers that. Your spirit remembers that. Your mind remembers that, unless you blocked it out because it was so horrific that you were able to completely catatonic block it out, right? And so there are many people that can help somebody heal from that process. There's thousands of healers out there. And I think that the first step is just having the place where you can talk about it, right? Because we haven't felt safe to talk about. We feel ashamed of even being violated, which is the craziest. But I'm a victim of abuse. So I know I have felt the shame. I'm not saying it's right, but it just comes up, right? It comes up a lot of times with victims that have been abused, and it can be worked through, right? And you can say, no, I was abused. I'm not ashamed of it anymore. I was,
Oh, it's very shameful. I mean, I have too, and you feel that when you talk about it, especially if it has happened to you when you already consider yourself, a person of some, value in society,
and mental, education, right?
Right. Then it's even more, off-putting because speaking about it kind of identifies you as that. It identifies you as someone who can be taken advantage of sexually, and that it, undoes, let's say, all the effort, the time you've put into, a career or a public image or being a mother. It becomes
the one thing,
or whatever
it's the one thing people remember you by. Right. All of a sudden, there's that girl that got raped.
Yeah, whatever other identity you've put yourself into, wife, mother, it doesn't matter about the career. It's about anything that you think has somehow, your sacrifice and your labor has earned you some respect in this, patriarchal society, where it's hard for women to get respect. And then the moment you publicly acknowledge that I have actually been seen simply as a hole to be filled without a will or agency of my own, you feel like you've lost all of your value, and that's how everyone will see you again, because it's so easy, because that's the automatic place. That's where we start from, right? From our ancestors. So that's what we find so difficult. And the healing comes from making that conscious rather than kind of like forgetting about it and saying, just like be quiet and, you'll get through it, just move on, which is how our female ancestors managed to survive. They just took it and just had to live and make sure that
I did it for 35 years or maybe 32 years.
Yeah, you see, and that's like our automatic response. If we're not discussing it, and if we are not aware or reading or listening to podcasts or going on your platform and learning more, then that's what we know from what our generations, 5,000 years of women. That's how they survive. If you get raped, you get raped, and then you have your children. You hold on to that hope,
right?
And you're like, I'm going to live for them. And so changing that is not simple because I feel like it's a daily practice for a woman because we have to stand against, right, to, let's say, resist, the conditioning that we receive throughout our childhoods and our schooling and our, early
I would
development.
Say we have to overcome it. Because what we resist persists.
Right, overcome it.
We almost need to embrace it and just think it and move past it.
What I mean resist is like resist that kind of like automatic reactive response.
Stop yourself, think. Yeah, and overcome. Choose differently. We always say stop, look, choose, step left. You can say, wait, this is a behavior that is a pattern. Do I really want to do this? Is this serving me? What's another alternative? And then choose something different. Because an object in motion stays in motion.
Yeah.
I mean, it's physics. We have to stop the motion and say, no more of that, But I think it's like anything, it becomes easier and less frequent. I'll give you a good example.
Yeah.
I have an issue with the word try. When somebody says, I'll try to make it to your party, we know they're not coming, right? You and I both know that is somebody, what I call, oh gosh, wow, am I going to forget what I call it? Failing with honor. Right? I'm already telling you I'm going to fail, but I'm going to do it with honor because I'm going to try, And so I worked really hard at recognizing when I say the word try, do I really mean what I say? Or am I just lying to myself? Right? And when you realize you start counting how many times you say the word try to yourself, to people, to anyone, your kids, to the world, it's mind numbing. Right? And so it took me, I still work on it to this day, but if it happens maybe once a week now, where it used to happen 7 times a day. Do you know what I mean? And so once you get used to stopping and going, look, wait, I just did something that's an alarm for me. I need to look now and decide, did I mean that? Did I not? It's kind of the same thing. I need to look now and decide, do I want to keep moving in this motion? Or do I have the tools now to step left?
Yeah.
Do something different?
Yeah.
And where do I need to reach out to get to support to do that? If I can't do it on my own, reach out to get more support.
Yeah.
The people are there to support each other. If you just ask, they want to help.
Yeah.
We have friends and family and that's the other thing about this platform. Friends and family is sometimes not the best to go to.
No,
right?
It's the worst.
And so we have our friends and family for support for some things, but maybe not for this thing, right?
No,
and so you can create a group of anonymous sex-positive friends online that can be your support system in this area without getting out to everyone that you're working on this area. Not that you need to be ashamed of it, but it is your business who you want to share that with and who you don't.
Yeah.
Right?
For sure.
It's a personal experience. And I say this all the time. People are like, well, if it's anonymous, are you promoting shame? I'm like, absolutely not. But what I say to you, I might not want my son to hear because I just don't need him in that part of my business. It doesn't mean I'm ashamed of it. It's just not part of our relationship, And,
it's not how the system, our social system, is set up. So it's not in our control, and like you can't ask for too much right now. So yeah, for sure, the family, not the friends, but the family, as it's set up, is the last place where you feel, safe going with your transformation, with yourself kind of like articulation, or your self-discovery, because they already have a prefab identity for you, an idea for you, and it could be when you were like 10, it could be when you were 15. It was definitely when you were unconscious, right? So working on them, that's the last thing you want to do if you want to do it. Yeah. I mean, for me, for sure, Facebook, I'm never on Facebook. I hate Facebook because of Mark Zuckerberg and all he represents, but before we knew and heard of all this stuff, I still was never there really, because it's all my family and friends, people my parents' age, from like my birth country, from other countries I've lived in, old professors, cousins, people who like make no sense, like being my friends, but they're on Facebook and they found me and I can't say no. So yeah, it just doesn't feel at all safe.
Well, yeah. And I mean, usually like if you are going to go have sex, let's say you're meeting and you go to dinner or you're in a public place, you say, let's get out of here and go somewhere private. You're not going to have sex right there in the middle of the restaurant.
Right? Exactly. Yeah.
Why would you want to talk about sex online where everyone can see your conversation? It's still intimacy, right? It's our intimate moments. Now, if somebody wants to go to a swinger club and that's their enjoyment is to be watched or be, in that voyeur situation, an exhibitionist, then that's what they want.
Oh,
but not everybody wants their sex on exhibit.
But
some
still,
people do.
Believe
some
me,
people don't.
I've gone to like a few of those, and I have like seen my accountant there, and I left. Once I saw my proctologist there, and I left. So for sure, I mean, my family members are on another continent, so like I don't run that risk. But like imagine that. So yeah.
Yeah. So that's what I would say about the privacy on Pleazeme, is that it's meant for that, right? And it's also meant for the fact that sometimes we have questions that we want to ask, and no matter who it is, we're really just too embarrassed to even ask it. When I first walked into a sex toy store, one of the most difficult things for me was to go up to the counter and just ask any question.
Yeah.
Any question, like to a 17-year-old who's behind the counter about what's going to make me feel good down there. You know what I mean? Like, I just didn't even want to ask that question and even have to look at any human being and hear the answer. I was beat red. I went running out of there with a blue dildo that was probably worth 10 cents. I mean, you know what I mean? It was like, there are times when and that's an extreme example back many, many years ago we're talking about, but I'm saying,
no, but it's not an extreme example.
Some questions.
Yeah,
some questions are just private. It's like, I don't really want to admit that I want to learn about pegging. Because I don't know how I feel about it yet.
Yeah.
Let me get my research done and come to my own actual decision before I let everybody know I'm even looking into it. Like it's kind of that kind of a thing, right? We have the right to our own intimate exploration. We don't need to be doing all of that developing on stage. We're not actors and actresses, right? While we're changing and morphing and trying and learning, and do we really want all of it out? Or would we rather emerge and say, hi, oh, something's different about you. Really? It's great. Is it good or bad? Not that it matters, but I'm saying, like, when people say, oh, you look different now, or what's happened? Did something happen to you? That's better, to let the natural progression.
I started pegging my boyfriend.
I'm thinking about pegging my boyfriend. What do you think? And then every time they see you, it's the rape conversation again. Oh, did you do that, Peg? Like, it doesn't become about who you are and what you're doing, your mission in the world, and how are you feeling, and that's all they can think about. How'd that go?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, it wasn't so great. Now you're going to tell them every detail about it?
Yeah.
And so, and is that fair to the other person that you just included in that conversation? Did they want you talking about it to that person, knowing who they are? Just saying, consent can be violated in a number of ways.
Yeah.
And so I think that this gives people that level of privacy that they need to do this work, right? That they deserve, they deserve to do this work, right?
Yeah. Exactly.
And so that's really what that is all about.
And also trust, because like you can go on Reddit, but who knows if the information is valid or if you're going to hurt yourself in the process, or, you know, there is no kind of like overall, you know, accountability or so like going on Pleazeme and then knowing that those channels, you know, are legit and, you know, have been verified. And
I think your audience is not going to understand. There's anonymous members, you and me, everyone who wants to go in and find out their world and take the analysis and experience the content. And then there's the public channels that we vet and we make sure they're a real business and that they have expertise in the space, and then which worlds they belong in and which people, you know, are looking for that kind of content. And then we deliver that interaction between the experts and the brands and the people in a manner where they can communicate. And so, yes, that was critically important. That was the problem. The other problem I was trying to solve for myself. See, trying is failure. But in this instance, I was trying to solve a problem for myself, and I did solve it. And I wasn't sure if it was going to work. But that was that, you know, when we have questions and we want to ask questions of somebody that knows the answer, that we can trust, and you go on the internet and you Google it, and 10 different little blogs come up, and you're looking for one very specific thing sexually. If somebody hasn't written a really good article about that, then you don't find anything, or you find little tiny blurbs and they look like ads, and a lot of it is just bait clicking and trying to get you to a porn site. You know, like, I just felt like I wasn't finding what I was looking for from qualified, good, resourceful sites. And, you know, and then there's the question. Do you go to your friends and go, hey, do you know a good sex therapist that talks about pegging? No, you don't. If you don't find it there, you know, unless you're plugged into a very sex positive community, you're most likely not going to ask again or find somebody who will know. You know?
Yeah, and a lot of people will tell you misleading things about all kinds of, it's not, you know, it's just human nature. You know, there are a lot of people who consider themselves an expert very quickly. You know, so just like trusting one source of information, I feel is, you know, always comes with the risk of danger, because, you know best what you need, and we're all different beings, and we all have our own completely, you know, individual like sexual fingerprint. And so, you know, having a platform means that you can ask the same question or variations of it, you know, from different sources, and then
perspectives.
Exactly, and then pick the answer that moves you or that makes sense to you, and then continue from there. So
it's about having choices,
right? And it's a process, you know, where you're in charge of your own words, in a sense. You know, that's how you create a sexual identity, and then how you get to change it and, you know, evolve it, instead of like, oh, okay, now I figured this out, this is who I am, done, you know, which is really,
it's never done.
Right.
We're all, if you look at nature, if you're not growing, you're dying. That's it. A flower either grows or it dies. There's no in between, right?
Yeah.
So I think as human beings, we're either growing or we're dying, right? And so we grow every day. We grow whether we like to. Older, we grow wiser. We grow sometimes more hurt if we continue to be abused. We grow though. You know, it's a process that you really almost can't avoid. And so why not grow positively? Yeah. You know, why not grow consciously and in a direction that you choose to grow? You know, guide your mission toward your destination. Have a map.
Yeah.
You know,
and what is that mission? You know, I feel that an important, you know, kind of like check-in with ourselves, you know, has to be, you know, the basic human condition, you know, the basic question of the human condition. You know, why am I alive? Like, why am I here? You know,
what's my mission? What's my passion?
What are the things in my life that give my existence meaning, right?
Right.
And so doing this research, you know, incorporating both growing and feeling pleasure, in your existence, in addition to just doing what you consider your duty, your duty to your family or yourself, or your survival duty or whatever that is, and also re-examining those duties, with this new knowledge of what you like and who you would like to be. Those are the things that make life meaningful instead of, kind of like hollow from repetition. So, and I feel like the big difference between Pleazeme and other sites is that it's not limited, like it's not only for bi-curious, or it's not only for people who want to meet people and try out things with them per se. It's not only for women, right? It's for everyone, all genders.
Yep.
And it kind of like can be what you want it to be, but it's more, but it is based on like sexual wellness. So
that's right.
That makes it, and it's kind of like women run, of course, and women supporting. Yes. So it takes out, that kind of like inherent sleaze factor of like, am I exposing myself to?
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we have a few men on our team. There are a couple, and they're wonderful. But yes, there's a majority of our marketing team and our technology leadership team and technology team are women. It was very important for me that women felt safe here, because I felt like we didn't have the resources that men have had through the years, right? So historically, they've had more or a different set of parameters, resources, outlets, we'll call it, for expressing themselves. And we really were more limited. And so I wanted to make sure that this resource would serve women.
So what does it cost, just on the practical level?
Yeah.
So you go on pleazeme.com, or is it? And then
Pleazeme.com with a Z.
Yeah.
And it's free.
Okay.
Yeah. And so you sign up just like any other social media, but only with your email, a username, and a password. That's the only data that we collect about people. Part of our data protection plan is to not take data. So we don't use geo-targeting, for example.
That's great.
Knowing where you are and where you're going. I don't want to know that.
So you start
we don't need to know that.
You start the profile under your username.
Email and username. And then when you take the analysis, it puts you into one of 7 worlds based on what you like in bed. So your preferences, whether you like BDSM or whether you like more straight missionary doggy style in the bedroom sex, right? So there's 7 different worlds to explore, and you get one world, your world, whatever world you end up with your membership. If you like to travel to all 7 worlds and explore other dimensions of sexuality, then you can get a VIP membership, and that's $2.50 a month. And that comes with a private photo vault. So if you do meet somebody and you do want to share photos, you can. It approves certain people that are your friends that you've already friended to your photo vault. And
so hold on a second. Let's backtrack. So I'm just going to speak first about the world. So when you get on the site, you take a test. And it's almost like a personality test or an astrology.
Yeah, it's a quick quiz.
It's a fun quiz. Yeah.
10 questions.
Right. Yeah. And then this quiz gets you to, be the worlds have their own names, which sound like planets. And you belong there. And then when you get the VIP membership, you can try out other worlds. And how do you make friends? How do you get to the place where you communicate with people or get to see them?
Once you get inside, the system, since it knows everyone's anonymous, it makes suggested channels to follow and suggested friends that you might want to check out. And so to make more friends, the key is customizing your profile, right? So going in and filling out the anonymous questions that are kind of fun about your personal likes and dislikes without saying who you are, some of the demographics about you, but not who you are. Meaning, are you a woman? Are you a man? Are you, gender neutral? Are you a transgender woman, a transgender man? Are you in an age bracket between 21 and 31 or 31 and 4, like there's 10-year age brackets. And then what are you interested in? What type of relation style do you like? Those kind of questions are there. That way, when and you pick your own avatar, and jazz yourself up. And that way, when you go and click on some of these suggestions and go look at their profiles, you can get an idea. Oh, this person looks interesting, and you can see what they posted in their feed. And they can go back when you've requested and look at your profile and say, do I want to approve this new friend? Read what you've posted in your feed, read what your profile says, and then they will accept you there. The other thing is people are posting content, and a lot of times people are just chiming in. And then when you keep going back and forth, chiming in on a piece of content with somebody, you realize, oh, I really like what this person's saying. Let me go check out their profile and give them a friend request. Or you can be in a topic room, and you can create a topic room and invite people to topic rooms that are important to you. And then people in there start chatting with each other, and you learn more about them. What I love about it is we don't get to use our sight, our smell, our hearing, or our touch. All we get to do with these people is listen to what they have, what their message is. So think about racism. No. Gender inequality. No. If you're not telling me your gender, all I know is your username and whatever avatar you pick. And you can pick an animal if you want. We have little cute, you can put a unicorn, or you don't have to pick a person. You don't have to identify as one sex or the other, right? And so it really gives you the ability to learn about somebody by what they say. Now, can people fool you and lie and this and that? Of course. But from a standpoint of prejudging someone, that's gone. That's gone on Pleazeme, other than what they say,
Yeah,
not
I
the
think
color
that's
of their
beautiful.
skin.
Yeah, exactly. So like the prejudice, the inherent prejudice is gone.
And judgment.
So you can get to like the essence of a person. And if the person is, honest, then that's, that's like an amazing shortcut. And since they can't quite see you, they have less reason to deceive because, they don't know what, it's like it may not be worth their time. Yeah. Right. So I think that,
True.
By default, it's not, it's predator free, or less predatory. Yeah. By default. Right. Exactly.
Right. And you know what else? The people that are a little worried about even going on and interacting at all, they just want to kind of read from the experts and learn and listen to podcasts. You can be in voyeur mode. And in voyeur mode, nobody can see you. Don't get suggested as friends. Nobody sees any posts that you make. You can make your posts only visible to your friends, or you can make them public to everyone, depending. So you can completely set how much privacy you want, and or if you want any interactivity or no interactivity. Just using the platform as an educational device, as a news and learnings and, explorative device without the interaction.
So, and the people can have it anywhere they want. Education members get from just like reading articles or listening
following
to podcasts?
The channels, listening to podcasts, watching videos, reading articles, looking at images and what they have to say about. There's going to be art, exotic art, and there's erotic writing, and there's ASMR and all kinds of, different things that you can, VR, virtual reality, and walking into a virtual reality world is coming soon. So we have a number of different ways to, loneliness is a big problem.
I'm sorry?
Here we are. Loneliness is a big problem. Here we are overpopulated. But so many people, and especially now with what's been going on, are lonely. They're home alone. The amount of depression medication has gone up. And if they're not alone, a lot of domestic abuse has gone up. People are they're stuck at home, and lonely is a very sometimes disheartening place to be. And so we wanted to create a place where people could still, have that connection, even if they live in Alaska, 80 miles from the nearest store, or whether it's COVID-19 and everyone's stuck in their home, or whether they just don't have a loved one, or they're living in a city or a state and all their family is somewhere else and they don't have a significant other, they're lonely. And so we wanted to create tools that would give people that ability to be at home and still be connected in this arena, if that makes sense.
Yeah. No, totally. Yeah, I think that, I feel that everyone will profit from going on, starting a profile, trying it out, and see how you feel, and then
if you don't like it, leave.
You recommend it to your friends, and then more of your boyfriends or girlfriends, they go on, and you create like your own neighborhood, or your own like group on the platform. So that's how it grows. And I feel that there is a huge need for answers right now, which is beautiful, because even like 3 decades ago, people were not asking questions,
Right.
So the fact that now everyone is asking questions and they're using, the internet as a source, I think that is a changing who we are as a society. It's kind of opening up space. And getting out of academia and ivory tower, and having this conversation among ourselves, and bringing it to people. There are all kinds of sites, I won't name them, but where people can ask questions and get other people voluntarily to answer based on what they know, on their experience, right? So it's just like a dialogue that's happening, online, and I feel that that's the most helpful, right, of our exchanges online, because it's authentic, and you never have to meet the people, or you're just learning. It's free, right?
Exactly.
And it's kind of opening up our eyes globally. So,
for sure.
And how do you make your revenue? Are there ads, or it's not just from the VIP membership, right?
Yeah, we have a shopping cart. So every time somebody purchases in the shopping cart, that goes to supporting the technology. The reason we added the shopping cart was, number one, we wanted to make it easy for people to get what they want quickly, right? We're a fast food society. 2 clicks, and I'm already I can't find what I'm looking for, right? And so that was one thing. But the main thing really was raising capital as a woman in the technology industry, and then add in the adult industry.
Oh, yeah.
is and I'm not, listen, we've done it. And so I don't ever believe you can't do something. But I knew that it was going to be a little more difficult for me. And so I thought we need to offset that cost with some revenue. So we don't have to borrow as much.
What can the members buy?
Sex toys, books, education, in all different categories, lubes, just your general. We're not like Love Honey or Adam and Eve, where they're thousands and thousands. What we did is we went through and we handpicked what we felt were best of class in a number of categories. From body safe to, just the company has a good mission. They use good quality products or ingredients or, materials that are more helpful for the environment, for our bodies, and everything like that have good science behind them. I come from a medical background, so we do a lot with CBD and herbal, things that are incorporated into lubes and body washes and vaginal biome health, and things that really we need to know about, and that are not necessarily found on a traditional buy a vibrator site, right?
Yeah.
And so we have a lot of different things there. So that's one of the ways. Eventually, we will have advertising for brands that want to promote their products, because they're not allowed to anywhere. They can't put a Facebook ad up for a vibrator. They won't accept it. They can't even put some female sexual wellness items up. But you can put Viagra up, right, for an ad on Facebook, but you can't put something that's for female sexual wellness in many cases. It's a violation of their terms. Apparently, our pleasure and our ability to have sex is not as important as a man's, or is more vulgar. So they can't advertise it. I mean, we don't know, but it's what's gone on, and it's what's gone on for years.
Well, that's exactly what we were saying is the hierarchy, of the system that we take as normal. So, it's important to remember that that's what we think is normal. Men being men includes, wanting to be sexual and wanting to initiate sex, even when they're not invited to, or even when the space, is not about sex.
Was not opened up.
And that's considered normal.
Right.
Boys will be boys,
Boys will be boys. Well, they get to advertise more freely and they take that same liberty.
Right. And the same way that, for a woman to be objectified or sexualized is considered normal,
Right.
like
Right.
she's hot, it doesn't matter that she's like whatever in church or,
Right.
in the supermarket, like she's hot. So that stuff, the fact that we're thinking even that way, or these expressions are in the background of our minds. I did you score, or how many, like it's just
notches in your belt. Yeah,
exactly. And that's like there is an inherent prejudice where men are on top, let's say, and women below when it comes to sexuality. And
pleasure.
My understanding of it is that it has been set up this way by patriarchy, the system we live in, the social structure we live in, the language we speak, the morality we're taught. Precisely because women have an advantage, which is sexually, our only advantage
is the right to say yes.
Genitally speaking, is the procreative advantage, right? So we get to give birth and men don't. And so when it comes to sex, we actually have more advantage and more power than the male of the species. The male of the species is more powerful physically, so they were able to use their strength to kind of enforce what they, I guess, assumed would be a more equal exchange of power, which was to control and own the womb and its products, the children, right? Because if women control, have ownership, legal ownership of their womb, their vagina, and its products, the whole system crumbles, right? The children have women's last names, and that whole setup of the patriarchy transforms. So it's based on that men in some way own women, right? And and that was the first form of slavery, on which other later forms of slavery that are more obvious to us, that we consider less normal, were based on. So, from there we get to this place where, Facebook or Twitter, or it doesn't matter, right? Having access to platforms and conversations and, moments in time where that is not considered normal, and we can experience a different way of being, is how we change. There's like no other way to change. We gotta have more and more and more people, average people, not people who are like, thinkers or in the business, experience something other than the norm.
The norm, for sure.
Right.
And I think that the worlds are set up for that too, where, you go into your world and it's all people that have the same preferences as you, right? And so you're there, and when the ads do come in, and it'll be, women like to shop and learn a little differently than men too. So we're designing everything to be very native, very inviting, and like, hey, are you interested in learning? And it'll be targeted to you as a woman, in a woman's voice. So we're going to not only step outside of that patriarchy that you just talked about and say, no, we're going to allow this. We're going to not only allow it, we are going to embrace it and really work towards giving that message in a feminine delivery voice. And that's to say if it's a feminine product, right? So to be allowed to say, it's okay, it's a product for us. We're going to share it the way we share it. And we're going to learn from it. It's not going to be like going on a porn site, an intrusive, whatever, programmatic advertising. I wanted it to be a place to go and a destination. So although we will offer that advertising, it's not going to feel like intrusive advertising to the user. It's going to feel like good suggestions that were built based on business intelligence and artificial intelligence and your previous, areas you were researching, and get you more of what you're looking for just there, anonymously, just to your anonymous member, So I think that we have a lot of opportunities to use these tools as women to empower ourselves personally in our own journey, and to use these tools as women business owners in this industry to empower ourselves and other women out there. So it's exciting, really. We're really excited to launch the iFund. We have a crowdfunding campaign coming up. So every dime that goes into that campaign is going to go into helping us find more people to serve. The money is going to go right back into building the community of more people and adding a few features that we know people are asking for the channels and for the members. We have a full team. So we're every week building and changing and adding and making better. And we will always do that.
Yeah.
And that's the other thing. People can participate in the evolution of this platform. Tell us what you want. I listen. We'll make it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what I do. I make shit happen. So you tell me what you want to happen and I'll make it happen technologically, and then we'll band together with all the other people that think it's a good idea and we'll share it with the world,
Yeah.
That's really what we're all about.
Yeah.
And it starts with each of us.
Exactly. Exactly.
It starts with each of us.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I love it. I'm super impressed and, in awe of what you've done already. The platform, I've been on the platform a few times, and to me, it's at the level of a Facebook. So, it's amazing that, you have the technology so easy and fast and interesting. And, the quiz is exciting to take.
It's fun, right?
Yeah, it's so fun.
Yeah.
I can't believe you made it up. It's so wonderful. Yeah. So I definitely suggest to all of our listeners to go on pleazeme.com.
Yeah.
Please me with a Z.
Your world is going to deliver what you like, and the people there are not going to be as judgmental because they like what you like. They're going to be judging themselves, because we don't just judge each other for having sex. We judge each other for how we're having sex sometimes.
Yeah.
So that kind of eliminates that. So just give it a try.
Yeah.
Check it out.
Join, try, go online, start the profile, take the quiz.
Follow your channel.
Yeah, follow
Speak Sex.
Yeah. People can
awesome.
listen to the podcast through there if they
can
love the platform. So that would be great. Yeah. And
it's mobile accessible too. We made it mobilely reactive, so you can just as easily access it on your phone or a desktop. Yeah. It is not an app. It's important to let people know it's not an app on your phone. And that's because Google Play and Apple iTunes don't always support adult apps. And so we didn't want our future and your future to be in their hands if they would not support updates. Mm-hmm. So we made it a mobilely responsive web platform so that we would always be around. Yeah. So, but you can access it on your phone. So
I love it. And I love the ambition of it. I think the other day you were telling me you want like 1 million people how many members are you looking for? I just loved it.
Well, right now our first goal is 20 million. That's like a longer term goal. But the way I really feel about it is, number one, it could have billions of people all over the world on it. It really could.
Oh, yeah.
If with the growth. But what really matters to me is the next one that signs up. One person matters. I remember a day I sat there and I was reading through the feed and a woman said, for so long I've felt like I don't belong anywhere and that nobody understands me. And I finally found a place where I feel accepted. I just broke down in tears. I was like, okay, I have one person. Mission accomplished. Shut the company down. We're good to go. No, but I just sat in gratitude for 20 minutes thinking, praising the team, myself, just living in a moment of gratitude. This woman allowing her, us to come into her life, in a way to have that impact. And when somebody gives you the opportunity to help them, you're really the one getting fulfilled. That's that we get emotional fulfillment from helping others, right? Mm-hmm. We can't do that without the people. Mm-hmm. So I don't get fulfilled, and that's why I do this, without the people there getting helped. Yeah. And so it's really powerful for me. Anybody, one person would be great. But I think we have the capability between everyone on this mission and the people that are out there craving this interaction to really do some wonderful things.
Yeah,
and
I agree.
all over the world. So, you know, I say sky's the limit.
Yeah.
That's what I say.
And it's a good thing, you know, not only to learn, but also to speak up, you know, to just,
Right.
you know, say
Share.
things, to
Share, yes. We need to hear the stories.
Yeah.
We need to know we're not
yourself.
alone.
And
Yeah.
I feel that that's even, you know, harder is to kind of like take the initiative, you know,
Right.
that it's not like a place where men explain things to us, you know,
Yeah.
it's not.
Yeah.
We can actually, you know, the user can just be the one, you know, taking charge and
Yeah.
and being, you know, and making choices or speaking up or saying what was otherwise repressed. So, and also,
Yeah.
you don't have to pay. I feel that a big challenge for me, you know, a big challenge in the current environment is that, you know, folk of all genders who want more information, you know, often have to pay for, you know, whether it's coaching or therapy or all that stuff.
Right.
And, you know, most people don't have that extra income, right?
Especially right now.
Exactly, especially right now. So, you know, I feel like once again, you know, kind of like sexual wellness and health has been geared toward those who can afford it, toward the privileged.
Right.
And they are the people who need it less. They need it less in the sense of if they wanted to, they could have access to education, right? So having something that's readily available where people in one, you know, in one platform, in one source can get a ton of information without having to pay, you know, a lot of money, I think it's a fundamental, essential, like human need, you know.
And I'm my own customer. I mean, I want to improve my life. So I go in and I take lots of these courses, and you're right. I mean, where does somebody get something like that, you know, for free? And how do they even know it exists?
Exactly.
You know, these people can't, you know.
Yeah.
And so it's wonderful. And not just that, but just having another person to ask a question to, a peer-to-peer question. Sometimes we don't all need therapy. We just need to be listened to, heard, and hear that somebody else experienced the same thing. And then we can go, oh, okay, I thought it was just me. Move on.
Yeah.
You know, like, what did that just get you for free? You know? So there's so much there, to your point, that can be accessed.
Exactly.
And that's why we built it.
Yeah.
That's why we built it.
And also our vocabulary keeps changing. You know, we keep coming up with more words for things that were unspoken or unspeakable or like, you know, deep, dark secrets. And now, you know, as we evolve, we're able to come up with words that are not that don't contain judgment. How is the average person going to find out these terms? How are they going to access this, you know, new language that they can use where they can say things without making those things, you know, like horrific or shameful? Well, they have to get them somewhere, and it's that exchange, you know, that dialogue that, you know, someone will tell them something in a word or a term, you know, from their experience that will be like, oh yeah, that's how I'm calling it, what I experienced. Yeah, and because that feels legitimate, you know, instead of like self-harming or self-shaming or whatever. So all of that happens, you know, by getting on platforms where you can have exchange and a voice safely. Yeah,
and learn. I have a totally new vocabulary. I was one of the worst offenders, calling the wrong gender identity. You know, like I didn't know I was doing anything wrong. To your point, you use, this is the vocabulary I grew up with. I didn't mean for it to hurt your feelings. But then once you learn that does hurt somebody's feelings, that's a little different than you, but you're like, oh, okay, so how do I address you? Oh, like this. Okay, no problem, because I certainly didn't mean to disrespect you or make you marginalized. I just didn't even know that was a thing, right? And so we don't know what you don't know, to your point, and there is a lot of language changing going on in many areas, not just sexuality, you know, racism, everything. You know, there's a lot of focus on this right now. People saying one wrong thing and losing their whole career, right?
Well, that's a problem, you know, because how, you know, I feel.
But it's an extreme example of this.
Yeah,
it's an extreme.
I feel that, you know, that whole political correctness thing has gone way too far. And I do think it's because there is such a a disconnect between, again, academia and
the real people.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
The vastness, of people in their daily lives. So kind of meeting somewhere is what we need to do, and, give space for everyone to catch up and participate. Otherwise you get the backlash that brought us, our current president, which is a legitimate backlash. A lot of people have felt isolated and marginalized and silenced by our own kind of progressive evolution. So, I know many women who are, smart, interesting, educated, capable, talented women, and chose to, for all kinds of reasons, stay at home and raise their children. And I find it admirable. I know how much work that involves, right? Having done it, it's by far the hardest thing I ever did. And I wrote books, and I, was a journalist, and I was a staff writer. I taught at the university. I got many Ivy League degrees. Nothing compares. All of that put together was not the work of 3 years of raising, right? So, but they feel devalued. They feel that they go out in the world and everyone asks, and what do you do? And they don't want to say I'm a homemaker. They just feel unseen. And you know what? They voted for Trump. They didn't vote for Hillary. So it's not even that they are Republicans. They just felt excluded, So I feel that this type of inclusion where there is space for all of us, with all of our different choices and our strengths and weaknesses and our flaws and our efforts, our trying.
We learn through the diversity. If we're only with the same people, and that diversity, I mean the different races, the different colors, the different orientations, the things that are in our world, but not us, right? We're all unique. We're all unique in that world. The only thing that is binding us is what we tend to like in bed, but it gives us that diversity all the way around us in the world. And you can, of course, connect with people that are more like you and connect with people that are a little different from you. But it gives that input and the feedback, and you read things in a thread and you go, oh, well, that person's view is interesting. What are they about? And then you go, oh, that's their perspective. They're coming from a different gender than I am, or they're different gender identity than I am, or a different relationship preference style. I'm monogamous, they're monogamish, or this one's a swinger, this one's a polyamorous. But that explains a lot when you go, okay, that's a different perspective now. Different than mine. Let me learn about it.
Yeah, and whatever. Let me maybe try something out. It's healthy. I feel it's healthy not to be precisely defined and not to be very public about who you are, because that makes it easier for us to kind of change and try things out and evolve.
Yes.
You being a fellow Piscean, know that being adaptable.
Mutable.
Mutable and adaptable is a good way to be in this change in times. Who would have thought that we would be in a pandemic? None of us could imagine it, and here we are, and we're all adapting. So. Why not adapt to all kinds of changes in sexual exchange that are happening? Try it.
Yeah. And whether they're happening, whether we like it or not, right? They're happening, you can ignore it, or you can turn a blind eye, or you cannot be a part of it, but they're still happening around us, right? So
and controlling it, I feel like it's the worst. They say that our instinctive reaction, well, for most of us, is to either please, or isolate, or control, or distract with an I. I have an accent. So, either we turn our attention to something else, right? So we don't, or we, say yes, not because we mean it, like you were saying, because we want to be pleasant or get along or avoid conflict. or we isolate ourselves, like kind of like retract and go into our own space because feel threatened, or we try to control things, and enforce our will and our view, which I feel is, the least helpful of all, because the other choices may give us a little bit of time to kind of like process, the difficulty or the conflict or the change, and then see how we can adapt and go, and go on being part of the world as it changes. So taking a little time and not immediately having an opinion and immediately saying like, this is who I am and this is what I believe in and that's that, is useful. And
at your own pace.
Yeah.
Right? At your own pace. There's nobody pushing you to do things here. It's not I'm going to get in there and all of a sudden I'm going to feel pressured. No, it's take it at your own pace. Change. We're all different. We change differently. We have sex differently. We talk differently. We have different sound patterns, fingerprints, DNA. We're different. So let that experience be yours.
Yeah.
The one that you are ready to have and that you want to have, and take it at your own pace.
Yeah.
And if that pace is Mach 10 with your hair on fire, hell, take it at that pace. Nobody's going to stop you. You know what I mean? But it doesn't have to be that. It can just be gradual too,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, thank you, Heather. I love our conversation. And
me too.
I highly recommend this platform to all of my listeners out there. So everybody,
thank you.
Before I say goodbye for the week, try out Pleazeme, Pleazeme.com. And as always, until next week, keep speaking sex. So we're excited to announce our partnership with oldplayground.net. It's the site to go to if you're in any way curious about what to do next in your sex life. If I could make love incessantly, I would be God.